Добрый день, дорогие коллеги. Я очень рад, что вы сегодня начинаем именно уже третий день нашей международной конференции. У нас будет очень много интересных спикеров. Есть и хороших сторон пандемии.
So there is some positive side on about the pandemic.
Потому что в этом году к нам подключаются люди из разных стран мира.
We'll have people from different countries of the world with us.
Им не пришлось именно лично приехать сюда.
This time they didn't have to travel in person, but they can join us by computers.
Но сегодня мы начинаем именно с один из главных людей в перспективе основатель этого фонда Денис Роза.
Just in perspective, and Dennis Rosa with us today.
Денис, я передам тебе слово.
And I'm passing the microphone to you, Dennis.
Спасибо, приветствую всех.
Thank you very much, and I welcome everyone.
Что-то неправильно с переводом.
And I think that something's wrong with the channel and the interpretation.
И английский, и русский, или что-то надо делать, это надо просто всем сообщить. По-моему, так не должно быть, коллеги. Поэтому надо это решить, иначе это будет очень мешать всем.
Денис, это должна быть техническая служба, должна нам, переводчикам, назначить функцию перевода. Тогда будет два канала. Пока у нас
они, в принципе, это знают. Они у нас не первый раз, поэтому где они? Я не сижу рядом с ними, я их вижу здесь, среди людей. Поэтому, извините, секундочку, просто это будет тяжело. There's just a problem with the translation, because the translation, we should not hear both Russian and English. English speakers should hear English, Russian speakers should hear Russian. And I know that there's something that has to be done, and I'm hoping our IT staff will fix this quickly. I can see the sign language translator, but I would like to welcome everyone. Я тоже, вот Михаил говорил о том, что замечательно, что у нас сегодня возможность иметь зарубежных гостей на нашем форуме. Я согласна, это прекрасно. Это первый раз для нас. Идет перевод.
Что? Well, Dennis technical services working, Igor says. Well, he tries to figure out how to do that.
Так что говорите.
Dennis,
I continue? I can speak in
shall we do it in English in the beginning until you sort everything? I'm sure.
Oh, I can see it. Now the interpretation has appeared.
Yes.
Yes, and so everyone needs to know, Mikhail, do you know how to use that? Should I explain? For the English speakers, if you look to the bottom, you'll have a little something that it reads interpretation. So if you look down, you'll see a globus or a globe, and it reads interpretation. You have to press on that and then choose your language. But it's really important to also choose if you want to mute original audio. So if you're listening to English, you want to mute audio so you're not hearing the translation as well. If you're listening in Russian, you want to mute. Значит, если вы по-русски слушаете, я вот сейчас по-русски скажу, что там значочек внизу, где слово перевод. И там вы должны для себя выбрать русский язык и потом пометить еще, что вы хотите послушать там ниже написано Unmute Original. Так, все. Я, видимо, должна тоже что-то сделать, потому что я слышу только английский и русский. Так, все, сейчас мы попробуем еще раз, да? Все работает? Игнасио, слышно? Я вас слышу, я по-русски, да, я имею в виду перевод на английский, чтобы всем слышать. Да, извините за такое, я надеюсь, что все поняли, все подключились. Я думаю, Михаил будет в течение, повторять это периодически, это важно знать, вот по поводу перевода, чтобы все понимали. Еще раз приветствую всех. Я директор региональной общественной организации людей с инвалидностью «Перспектива». И в данный момент я тоже здесь как представитель Совета бизнеса по вопросам инвалидности, потому что именно Совет бизнеса – это главный организатор сегодняшнего мероприятия. В данный момент секретариат Совета у нас в «Перспективе». Я еще руководитель фонда «Лучшие друзья» и еще много всяких интересных шапок, но я не буду об этом говорить. Мне кажется, важно тоже сказать, что я работодатель. Когда есть бизнес и работодатели, я иногда забываю, что кроме того, я еще работодатель, что у меня около 100 сотрудников. Примерно половина сотрудников нашей команды – это люди с инвалидностью, которые уже специалисты в разных сферах и ведут разные наши программы. Наша организация, цель – это включение в общество людей с инвалидностью в разные сферы. И у нас разные программы, но, наверное, для всех главные, для этого мероприятия, это программа трудоустройства. Примерно 15 лет назад мы решили запустить программу трудоустройства. Тогда наша команда была намного меньше. Мы были созданы в 1997 году, но мы поняли, что пора заниматься трудоустройством. И где-то года через 3, когда вокруг нас появлялись такие бизнес-партнеры, и мы стали замечать, мы стали узнавать, что есть такие классные организации, нетворки или коалиции, или сети в разных странах, мы подумали, что хорошо бы и в России создавать такой же организации. Надо сказать, что представители 2 сегодняшних организаций здесь и Employers Forum on Disability и USBLN, который сегодня будет выступать человек из Disability In, они немножко переименовались недавно, и Business Employers Forum тоже переименовались, я, может быть, буду путать, но они нас вдохновили, и у нас тоже мы общались с руководителями этих организаций, потому что мы хотели подобные организации делать в Россию. Но надо сказать, что у нас формальный больше, у вас неформальная организация, у нас такое больше формальное объединение, и сегодня есть примерно 50 очень активных членов Совета бизнеса. У нас много различных мероприятий, допустим, у нас программа наставничества, у нас программа, где идет много подготовка для молодых соискателей с инвалидностью. Есть форум, который мы делаем, это уже 9-й форум. Есть бизнес-завтраки, очень много всего, все для того, чтобы продвигать идеи равной возможности в трудоустройство для людей с инвалидностью. И надо сказать, когда мы начинали, и был наш первый форум, вообще там практически не было компании тогда готовой выступать на форуме. Я помню, в форуме в основном выступали мы с коллегами, потому что было очень мало опыта трудоустройства людей с инвалидностью. Это было 12 лет назад, не так давно. В этом году у нас форум идет 3 дня, и, надо сказать, одна из причин, потому что у нас реально было много желающих выступить уже с очень реальным опытом. И компании из разных городов тоже, не только из Москвы, из Питера, еще из нескольких городов. И, конечно, это показывает, насколько ситуация изменилась за это время. И вообще изменилась ситуация для людей с инвалидностью в России. Но, правда, ситуация неравномерная. Я бы сказала, в Питере, в больших городах, в Москве больше возможностей в трудоустройстве. Так. И я считаю, наш совет бизнеса очень важной темой и задачей, это, конечно, создать такое сообщество единомышленников, которые могут делиться своим опытом, своей новой практикой с другими компаниями, которые только или начинают трудоустраивать, или вдруг они новых людей трудоустраивают, а у них возникают вопросы. Конечно, наша организация, цель больше это трудоустройство, но мы, естественно, участвуем во всех программах. То мы такая важная часть и совета бизнеса, но отдельно тоже для нас важно просто трудоустройство людей с инвалидностью. И как ни странно, мы думали, что у нас никакого трудоустройства не будет. Как для всех сейчас пандемия, локдаун, была очень тяжелая ситуация. Но на самом деле нам удалось даже оставить, многие сотрудники оставались на своих местах, переходили на онлайн, и потом даже нам удалось трудоустраивать новых людей. И очень много компаний увидели для себя новых возможностей в онлайн трудоустройства людей с инвалидностью. С одной стороны, мы-то не очень хотим много онлайн, мы говорим все время про инклюзию, но все равно мы понимаем, это тоже важный такой возможность, и это возможность трудоустраивать, допустим, кого-то из Владивостока или из другого города в Москве, но онлайн. Поэтому мы увидели, что Михаил говорил о том, что действительно эта пандемия нам дала возможность сегодня собираться, всем нам понимать, что можно вот так онлайн все делать. Но, конечно, и мне кажется, и работодатели стали и больше рассматривать возможности онлайн-трудоустройства и людей с инвалидностью из других городов. Я хочу пожелать всем узнать что-то новое сегодня. И я уверена, что я безумно благодарна еще раз за то, что вы смогли участвовать, что вы подключились, нашли время для этого. Мы очень надеемся, что мы дальше будем с вами как-то сотрудничать, потому что мы понимаем, насколько важно и опыт ваших стран, именно в том, чтобы мы двигались тоже вперед, и будем очень рады с вами сотрудничать. Спасибо.
Спасибо, Денис. Мы тогда уже перейдем к первому докладчику. Мы сегодня пригласили Игнацио Фреснеда, начальник управления директората по управлению персоналом большого гиганта компании Repsol. Он подключается к нам из города Мадрида, который тоже в этом году очень сильно пострадал именно от всех этой ситуации, поэтому мы очень рады, что он подключается. У него 27 тысяч человек в его компании, сотрудники, они работают в 40 разных странах, 80. Слышно? Алло? Мне пишет, что меня слушает. Вот, и Игнацио нам сегодня расскажет в своей презентации, как ему удалось на 500% увеличивать количество набранных людей с инвалидностью на работу. Как они в своей компании могли сделать такой успешный опыт. Игнацио, welcome.
Thank you, Mijail, and thank you to Perspectiva to invite us to this forum. I'm all happy to talk again with people in Moscow, even though we have in this pandemic, I cannot travel around with in my position, but thank you very much for the invitation in this forum. Thank you. I will start first with a history. There was a lady walking, once upon a time, there was a lady walking in the Red Square, okay, crossing the Red Square. With his, she is blind and he has walking with his guide dog. She realized that he wants to go to another place, that is the entrance or another place, and he has somebody, he feels somebody close to him, too close to her, sorry, and he asked him to please, can you help me to go this place? And the guy that was there start talking to the dog, saying how the dog will go to this place. The lady, that is not the first time that he has faced something similar, as more humble as he will be, as please don't talk with the dog because the dog doesn't know Russian. Can you speak to me and I will translate to him very, very well. So I want to highlight, this is a real example, okay, a real situation that happens in Spain that we use in our awareness sessions. And in order to explain that we are fighting with some kind of enemies that are invisible. And this is these invisible enemies that we are fighting in this community that we are cooperating in the integration of disabilities is that sometimes it's ignorance and bias. Because the people, once they realize, as I have been doing in the past, what is the energy that you will find in these people, and how you will get a lot of energy and a lot of alignment and energy and passion from these people, they will be in love as Repsol and I was today of this challenge. Okay, so I'm going to share with all of you some of the lessons learned and some of the activities that we have been doing in order to integrate people with disabilities in many different places, not only in our offices, also in some kind of industrial environment, and what are key things that we have implemented in this way. Okay. First, to start with the presentation of my company. Repsol is an oil and gas company with the headquarters in Spain. We have more than 27,000 employees, and more than 80 nationalities and more than 40 countries. We have from the exploration and production to the transformation of this oil and gas. And also we have petrol stations and we sell, and we have the marketing side of the business, also selling these energy solutions to the people, okay? We are really concerned about the social license to operate, and we are really concerned and we are focused to create this trust between the company and the final customer, and we really want to be part of this a better world in a better solution. We are the first company that we have declared to be carbon neutral on 2050. Okay. And also we have fully committed with the sustainability targets that of the United Nations. Why we choose diversity and inclusion as a relevant matter on our trip, on our journey? Because we know that we have better financial results. As an example, I will tell you that we launched a study that confront the people engagement surveys with the results of the petrol station, and we will declare that the petrol stations that have people with disabilities they have better customer survey results and more client orientation. So this is a really mathematical question that we have proof, and it's something that we have used in the past to build our business case internally. Also because and everybody knows that diversity drives to innovation. It's a fully linked that diversity and inclusive topics are connected with innovation. Also will let us attract more people, because we have more people to attract. If we exclude people with disabilities, we are not going to have this talent, or we cannot reach this talent. Also, employee commitment, because it's not only the people that we hire from this collective, it's also the people that are working in this diversity and inclusion environment that we have this commitment to, increase of commitment, engagement. Also, better reputation in our customer, in our society, and also client orientation, as we have already explained. Our objectives in diversity and inclusion is not maybe to be integrate, okay? What we kind is also to have a true inclusion, and this means that we will dance with the people that we are working with. If they have LGBTI questions, or we work in all the elements of the diversity, gender, age, disability, or sexual orientation, in order that this dance between our employees and the company will be clear. We know, everybody knows that the data says that more than 1 billion people live with disabilities. So this is why we think that we need to reflect our society, be part of the society that we are working for and that we are in, and trying to improve these clear objectives, that is how I will help these people and how I will help myself and my business, including these people in the business. We have these 10 topics that are clear for us, and this is what we call the success circle, starting with always with the awareness and personal conviction. Again, with the story that I have been talking in the beginning of the representation, awareness, to have the knowledge how to treat every disability, how the people of disabilities are feeling when we are treating them this way, and all these things make us realize that we will help on this, and everybody wants to help once they will have a clear awareness on that. Partners is critical. Perspectiva in my country is ONCE. ONCE have a great advantage on integrating people, and they work like a knowledge sharing unit, because anytime that some companies will have problems with some kind of disabilities on the integration, and anyone will have the same problem in another company, they will use this knowledge to across the companies and across the situations in order to improve the possibilities of integrating, okay? Also, ensure always equal opportunities. This is to try to remove bias and to manage even the processes. I will tell you after that some 4 examples that I will bring to you, how to change the teamwork or even the processes when we try to integrate somebody with a special disability. Support the senior management is crucial. Sometimes you need to look at the very beginning, and this is also a tip, that have a personal contact with somebody with disability. When you have these personal contacts, the awareness and the bias are already done, and you will have these people that will be sponsors in your project. So please look at the people that will have this kind of in the personal side to help on this. Also, strength coordination between all the areas is crucial, that everybody will know what kind of disability we are trying to integrate, what are the most difficult things that we are going to face, and trying to be coordinated. Also, the recruitment and onboarding process are not going to be similar to other ones. Maybe sometimes what you need to know to have is to involve this guy in their own onboarding, even that when you are planning how to mitigate with technology the inclusion, or what kind of devices you will create in order that this integration will be better, or even to change the processes that you have in your company in order to allocate this kind of disability in your processes. Anticipate needs. This is crucial too, okay? You cannot start with somebody if you are not checking safety, you don't have the medical services, you have not checked, I don't know, many other things that you need to involve in this strong coordination that you need to have with all your areas. And finally, adapt the position to the employee capabilities. This is individual case by case sometimes that you need to do, because not all, even that with the same disability is not the same solution. So this is crucial to have this adaptation, because there is a famous mathematician that said that in God we trust, but other people must bring data. So I'm going to give you the data that Michael have commented with all of you. We start on December 2004 with this number of people, and we grew till to 2015 to 600 people working globally in Repsol. Okay, why we achieve that? Because we have all this circle that I have mentioned, a clear statement, and case by case, challenge by challenge, country by country, looking for our partners, looking for the commitment, looking for a sponsor that already have this kind of connection with the disability. So every time that we have these steps, we try to, not only in Spain, out of Spain, we really have a success in most of the cases. Now we have a situation with the coronavirus that are a little bit decreased, but it's related to the decrease of the business, not the quota that we are trying. And globally, we have 2.4%, 2.3%, okay? And in many countries, as you will see here, it's not only the legal requirements, we are over the legal requirements in most of the places, but also how we have changed our processes and policies that in order to try to mitigate any problem or any bias on that. So lessons learned, as I have mentioned, is regarding the commitment on the top management, why it's important, how you need to be involved with that, the coordination with all the stakeholders, cooperate always with the expert bodies, not only the people and the NGOs or the institutions that you will find focus on disabilities. Also, you need the support sometimes from government agencies and other people that will support that. Also, quantitative data is relevant to follow all the cases, to look at the performance that they are having in their places, to bring success stories to the next one that you are trying to integrate. So it's really relevant to also to manage the data and to manage the history of these cases. Okay. Strategic planning, also to see how you are going to grow, what are the positions that you are going to grow in your business, and how you will try to integrate in this position that you are going to grow or you are going to have more in your next quarter, how to integrate people with disabilities. Create the proper conditions, that is not only regarding accessibility and training, also raising awareness of the teams that they are going to work. I remember one case that we have with a cerebral palsy, that we bring somebody with cerebral palsy that make conferences, okay? And they realize that cerebral palsy is not a problem and you don't need to treat them like a baby or like, no. They will, this is not charity. She is going to work a lot and she's going to bring all the things that you are going to do. The only question is that you need to take and pay attention maybe to the safety side or evacuation plan or something like that. So these kind of meetings previous to the integration are great, and they really face that there is not going to be no problem. Other tip to that is that you need to involve the person that you are going to integrate in one team in this onboarding process. And you will bring to this communication and to these meetings the person, and to talk with the team, and everybody will raise their hand asking any question to this. Because what I feel is that sometimes it's difficult to the people to raise their hand and saying, I don't know. But in the long range, you will find that the people have no problem to do that, and they really want to know how to treat each disability that we are going to integrate. And also, continuous improvement is a must. You need to giving up the paternalism, learning from mistake, and follow up. As we have in any other part of the society, we will have people that have no performance or are bad performers, and you are good performers. But it's the same condition that maybe you will find another place. and I will tell that is lower than maybe the people have no disabilities. I will talk about 4 examples, okay? One is ask them, please ask them always, because they have adapted their personal life to their capacities. We always talk about different capabilities in Repsol instead of disability. And what we have defined is that they have developed a way to work their lives in another way with the things that with all the abilities that they have and the capabilities that they have developed to confront every situation. So you must find that maybe, as I have in my past, I have one leg employee that when I ask him to, can I bring you something device to rest your leg or what? No, don't worry. My uncle have made me many times a personal device to do so, and I will bring one of these devices to my desktop, and that's perfect. Also, ask them, please. Second, job profile. You will redistribute between the team always the tasks that they are going to do. You don't need to close the job profile and I'm looking for somebody with this job profile. Also, sometimes you need to take one person that you think that is going to have the right energy and the right engagement, and trying to see how to change the pieces in your processes and tasks, and how to match this profile, even sometimes trying to changes the task that is assigned to every profile. So that's easy, is clear, and it's not so hard, okay? Internal seminars also, you need to do continuous awareness on that, and please, almost any match will be possible. We have people, we have one blind woman, Alba, that is working as a HR recruiter. So you cannot believe that somebody that is blind will be as an HR recruiter, and she is. Also, we have one blind woman that comes every day by metro to our headquarters, that is managing videos and data analysis of the video. So you cannot hear something like that, or you cannot ever dream, but this is possible. So please think about what are they capable instead of they are not, and instead of what kind of disability we are looking for. Because we think that this challenge is not only from us, this is a collaboration network globally. We have made, for every of these steps that we have been doing, white papers of our project, and we have from people that are working at petrol stations without one arm, only one arm guy that is perfectly working. Maybe he cannot do the wash task or this task, but they have managed in their turn in the shift to work always with this guy, and he's really full of energy, and they are really in this petrol station are really committed with Repsol and the engagement of the people, because we really take care of the society. So we have this guy that is also for a petrol station and service station to make them full accessible to all the capabilities, to all the disabilities. We have also a white paper regarding the lessons learned from the integrating people in every condition, and also the guy that is overcoming barriers, that talk about awareness and how to change the way that we work in order to align that. And this is mostly the things that I want to share with all of you. These papers are going to be available to all of you. I will send the links in our website in order that you will download all these guides, and you will have a full knowledge of that, and open through my email or my corporate email to any question that you will have on that. Okay. Only question is that I will make first to see the last is a video that we have in our company, and to go to the question and answer, only to say that I think that this world with after coronavirus and the new normality will bring us the opportunity to make a workplace more inclusive and more companies more inclusive. I hope so. Thank you very much. It's time for the video. I don't know if you have the video.
Diverse talent. Repsol's project to integrate people with different abilities aims to guarantee equal opportunities and act as a lever to identify and retain talented people. Making respect for diversity a value that enriches us as individuals and as a company. This is the reason why in 2005 we committed to hire people with different abilities for our network of service stations and continued doing so for our industrial area, including professionals for technical jobs and senior positions. The project has expanded to our upstream area. Our business area continues to provide internship opportunities and hiring graduates from our master courses. How did we achieve all of this? From the beginning, the commitment of the management made possible the implementation of the project, but the involvement of the people who make up the company was also necessary. We improved the accessibility of facilities, followed the advice of experts, carried out awareness workshops, and worked in coordination with all areas. All this work has allowed us to guarantee a successful integration. Repsol currently employs over 600 professionals in all company areas and in different countries, where the integration of people with different abilities is standardized and has become a global policy. Within Repsol's business strategy, the Different Abilities Programme has contributed to make diverse talent a reality and one of our competitive advantages.
Игнатио, огромное спасибо за вашего доклада. Есть уже два вопроса. Я не знаю, вы их видите именно в чате. Кто-то хочет знать, что было самое сложное в вашей journey, поездка именно в inclusion, и можно ли потом получать вашу презентацию? Два вопроса. Можете ответить, пожалуйста?
Maybe the first time that I faced a cerebral palsy was one of the hardest, okay? Because we need to work a lot first with the commitment of the management, and then to show them in a company or in a school how they are integrated on that. And finally, it was a success, a really good success, but was really different when you jump to a mental palsy or something more difficult, okay? Because when we start with a wheelchair or physical or whatever, it's easier to go faster. But when you start with some kind like mental or intellectual, it's going to be harder. So depending on your business, the cases are going to be different and the way that you need to look are different. But the most challenges in the first stage was the mental palsy. And then when you jump to an industrial context, like in a petrol station, when you are telling somebody that one person without one arm will do the same job, or we will change the way that we make the safety process or the evacuation process, even that they have a wheelchair or have so you need to fight sometimes with the bias of medical system or medical unit, and also with the safety in order to balance that. So from me was the cases or the first cases that we have in the industrial area, and also this mental palsy when you are pushing somebody that is in a different level, or the bias are bigger than in another kind of disability. Second question.
Спасибо большое. У меня есть еще один маленький вопрос. В вашей статистике вы указали, в каких странах есть количество людей с инвалидностью. И там интересно увидеть, что в Южной Америке проценты гораздо выше, чем в Европе. Как это объясняется, что они делают, может быть, лучше, чем мы в Европе?
Sometimes what you will face is that in the South America, they will have some kind of positions like petrol station operators or something like that. We have problems in the way that we attract talent, and sometimes we focus on this kind of collective in order to look for that. Okay. Also, you need to understand that the percentage of that is regulatory or is according to the law is different in every country. So sometimes you will find that in Ecuador or in another places, the percentage is higher because also the mandatory one is higher. But taking into account some of the places that we have in Latin America, the commitment is really great. And also the way that each government is certificating that somebody have a disability is completely different. Maybe you will have that in Europe is more strict to say that somebody have a disability, and maybe in another countries is going to be less. The certification is completely different. So sometimes you are measuring as disability something in Latin America that maybe in Europe cannot do. I don't know if it's enough. Let's take a little pause. Okay. Okay, okay. I will try to explain again. What I'm saying is that in the percentage that is
нужен определенный процент от своих сотрудников иметь именно с инвалидностью. Поэтому очень часто, наверное, чисто формально эти цифры выше здесь, чем в других странах. Поскольку больше нет вопросов, я еще раз поблагодарю вас за ваше выступление. Оставайтесь еще с нами. Еще будут очень много интересных докладов. Muchas gracias. И я
Спасибо, Michael. Спасибо. Thank you very much for inviting me to the forum. And more than welcome if you want to see any question that you will have in your situation or in your challenge. Thank you very much.
De nada, hasta luego. Я хотел бы сейчас продолжать нашу международную прогулку сегодня в город Будапешт. Насколько я понимаю, Адриана Беккера и Шаида Сулейманова выступают сейчас из Будапешта. Они работают они являются сопредседателем City Disability Network. Это сообщество компании City для людей с инвалидностью, которые именно работают из Будапешта. Адриана, Шаида, кто из вас первым будет выступать сегодня? И как...
I will be. I can share my screen to share the deck.
Отлично, мы видим ваши слайды уже. Дорогие зрители, если будут вопросы, пожалуйста, тоже пишите их.
Let me know if you can. Thank you for inviting us. Yeah, my name is Adriana. And, I think I need to troubleshoot one thing first of all. Okay, no, I think I'm fine. Thank you for inviting us. My name is Adriana, and with Shaida, we are the co-chairs of City's Disability Network in Hungary. So today we want to talk to you a little bit about what the network does in City and some of our initiatives within the company in Hungary to recruit people with disabilities and to increase retention also in the company. So basically in Hungary, we've been active since 2014. And we're part of a larger network of affinity groups within Citi that operate regionally and globally across a network, across a range of diversity points, such as gender, sexuality, race as well. So in this case specifically, we talk about disability and different working capacity. So basically our network mission is to position ourselves, position Citi in Hungary as a financial service provider of choice and employer of choice for people with disabilities. Basically what that means for us is that we recognize, and I think you've heard this in other talks throughout this forum, the talent currently in many companies is not being identified, recruited, and retained by a lot of companies. And this is based on outdated mindsets of thinking, upon which we think that people with disabilities can't join the workforce because of limitations imposed by their own disability, be it cognitive, mental, physical. When in reality, what happens is that a lot of those limitations are imposed by the environment. So we're talking about inaccessible buildings, teams that don't adapt their work processes to accommodate people with different ways of working, for example. So once you remove those limitations, you realize that people join the workforce. People not only can join the workforce, but become valuable members of your teams and your companies. Basically, also another point, another principle that the network follows is that our disability initiatives are not taken charity projects. This is not a charity initiative that Citi is undertaking, but rather an effort to recognize the dignity and the importance that being able to work and being able to define your own life plan has for the self-determination and the feeling of dignity that we all have as humans. So that celebration and recognition of diversity makes for just more valuable and more creative and more insightful teams. So that's basically what we stand for in Citi and within the Disability Network specifically. We do that, we hold different kinds of events throughout the year. So we do everything from panel discussions. We host a disability week in Hungary with speaker panels. We host exercises and even a quiz as well, so people can get more acquainted with different topics concerning disability. We also have performed accessibility mappings of our buildings to ensure that the facilities are as accessible as they can be. And currently, well, since 2017, Citi Hungary has been awarded with the Disability Friendly Workplace recognition, which is given by the Hungarian Chamber of Commerce, the American Chamber of Commerce in Hungary, and the Ministry of Human Resources. And we're actually in the process of renewing that award this year. And that implies a constant review of all of our processes, from accessibility to hiring practices, to make sure that we are indeed employers of choice for people with disabilities. So now Shayda is going to go over a little bit about our recruitment experience.
Yes, hello everyone. Please let me know if you can see me. Adriana, can you see me?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And one small point, I think there was some kind of problem because somehow it's written that Adriana is Shayda and probably myself, I'm Adriana. So just to be on the safe side, my name is Shayda Suleymanova. Добрый день всем. And I will cover the part of the recruitment initiative that we are having here in Citi Hungary. And as you can see from the slide, we have some pictures that are representing that and some information. I will go into a bit more details. So first of all, I will talk about our cooperation with the HR and recruitment teams. A few years ago, we had a really great partner, which is called Rehab Job. And this was a Hungarian partner who was basically helping us to find the talent who is having disabilities, living with disabilities. And it was a really great opportunity for us as Citi to find the people and to attract the people who might think that they are not really capable for the job in the office, but actually it's really working and we have all of the possibilities for that. So basically this Rehab Job company was the one who was helping us to find this talent, and then we were recruiting them through them. And basically, with the help of Rehab Job, over this time, we recruited at least 2 colleagues who are living with disabilities. One of them is having a stroke, while other person is on the wheelchair, and they're actually very active members of our network, and they really enjoy working in city. We had this, let's say, independent survey, and we basically asked them openly, like, is there something that you don't like in our company? They said, like, no, actually it treats us well, and plus there is everything that would be accessible for them in the company. So it's a big plus for us, let's say. But unfortunately, last year, this Rehab Job company, it was decommissioned in Hungary, so it's basically not existing anymore in general. And right now it's very hard for us to find any kind of partner who is doing same kind of job, because just going into market and finding especially the talent of people who are living with disabilities, let's say, is a bit hard for us. So that's why right now we are in the search of a company or partner or NGO that can help us to find this talent. However, right now what we are doing as well, we are basically posting in our job advertisements the line or the statement that, first of all, as Adriana mentioned, our company is the disability-friendly workplace, and we even have an award for that, and we are applying again for one more, actually the renewed one. So anyone who is applying and thinks that he or she is not very compatible for this kind of job or the office, they are more than, like, this is actually not true, because we can give them what they need, basically. And from other side, what this company did to us before being decommissioned, they basically made some trainings for us in 2018, which is called Train the Trainer. So they were basically sharing with us their experiences and how to train the colleagues on the matter of disability. And we had this long training with all of our team members, which was really great. And then once we got these trainings, we became the trainers who would give the sessions and workshops for those who are working in Citibank Hungary. So right now, mostly all of our members are the trainers, because we give the opportunity for everyone to try themselves and give the introduction to other colleagues about disabilities and how basically to treat this whole topic in the office, outside of the office, and how it's basically treated in general in the world and in Hungary itself. So we are having the sessions that are mostly focused, as mentioned in the slide, on the principle of equal treatment, on the definition and types of disabilities, and the employee rights, as well as the accessibility. And we are, let's say, very into this topic. We already did several trainings for recruitment, for HR, for managers, for other colleagues, for different teams, for those who are interested. So we are really advertising it a lot, and we have pretty good number of people who already joined the sessions. Of course, we couldn't cover all of City Hungary, who is like 2006 plus people. So we have lots of people here. So we cannot, of course, do the sessions for everyone, but this is our aim. So we really want to, let's say, educate all of our colleagues on the matter of disability. And I have to say that it really works for us in a very good way, because we share some information that can be maybe not that obvious for most of the people. And just about the sessions itself, we already hosted more than 15 sessions maybe in past 2 years, which is pretty good number. And the sessions firstly were more like informational ones, so we were basically sharing the stuff, while afterwards, you know, the topic itself, it's a bit heavy topic, and for some people it can be very like hard to understand everything and get through it. So we decided to make it more interactive, and right now, instead of sessions, we are having workshops. So we basically have some number of people in the room or online, for example. We split them by the teams. We give each team, let's say, type of disability, and they have to evaluate on that. We are giving them questions, they have to answer, they have to brainstorm, and afterwards we just share what we have and they share what they have, and then we have discussion, and it gets very live and it's very interactive, and this way people understand more and they get very involved in that. So we really think that this is a big success for us. and we really want to promote it around so other companies or other city sites would know more about that. So that's all from my side on recruitment initiative, but if you have more questions, feel free to ask at the end of the session. And now I pass it back to Adriana.
Thank you. Yeah, I think a little point that we also want to make concerning these sessions is that the workshops also allow us the opportunity to challenge, for example, hiring managers or team leaders on what they think accommodations are. Because sometimes people think that required accommodations for a disability are incredibly either expensive or time sensitive or time, they require a lot of effort on the part of the team. So we challenge them to consider all the possibilities of what disability entails and see how actually a lot of little accommodations that you can make and changes in your attitude within your teams benefit not just people with disabilities, but the entire team. So an example is having someone or a teammate on the autism spectrum. So for one of the simplest accommodations that you can have is tailor your communication style in a way that is very clear. For example, when you have verbal instructions, to also have them in written form, for example. That also helps people with Asperger's, people who have ADHD, and all of those accommodations are things that don't really take that much out of your time, but they not only benefit people with recognized disabilities, they can benefit everybody, basically. So that's another thing that we aim to do with these workshops, is to challenge our own assumptions and biases concerning what accommodation means in the workplace. Another initiative that we wanted to share with you, and this is the last one, is one of our more successful initiatives in City Hungary, and it's also very related to invisible disabilities. Because a lot of people suffer, for example, for chronic pain and discomfort in the office, and they feel that you can't really do anything about it, or that is not, a lot of people think this is something that I have to deal with, so I need to figure out how to fight my own discomfort at work. So basically, with this program, which we began since 2018, we started offering accessible devices in CT. So it's not that we didn't have them before. We basically began a research process. So we identify and we currently offer over 20 accessible devices. You can see them on the screen. They go from, for example, keyboard wrist rests, specific mouse for different kinds of wrist pain or arm pain. We have lumbar supports. We have ergonomic keyboards. So the whole idea is that we want to offer a range of devices to employees so that they can reduce their discomfort at work and increase their quality of life. So the whole idea with this program is that we have these devices. So we have a model of the device. If someone is interested in testing them, we'll give you a model for, without any cost. The employee can test it for 1 or 2 weeks, see if they actually like it, see if it actually helps. And if it does, then we provide information on how they can actually acquire that device through approved city channels. This device and the acquisition of the device is free of cost for the employee. And we've also worked with City Hungary and the executive team to ensure that people don't have to provide a medical slip to request these devices, and also that your managers can't question your medical need for such a device. Because also ergonomics is also a matter of prevention as well. We've had only in 2019, we had over 200 requests for devices. We had even team leaders requesting devices for employees that were going to come in who were pregnant, for example. And people began to really expand that idea of what accommodation in the office actually meant. So we're really happy about the success of this program. And our plan for 2021 is to increase the awareness concerning assistive technology. Because it also has a host of assistive technology options that a lot of people don't use because they don't know they have them. So a lot of people may have, for example, degenerative visual impairments or audiovisual impairments, and they don't really know that CT offers already a range of assistive technology solutions for them. So that's also what we want to provide. And another focus for 2020, and this is COVID related, is right now, I think for every company, the focus on remote work became a priority. And personally, for example, I suffer from chronic pain, and I realized that there are facilities at the office or that my desk at my office allows me to work in a condition that my house just doesn't. So it's been a challenge because a lot of these devices perhaps work in an office setting, but we really want to redesign this program to make sure that we also serve the needs of people who are working from home. And basically, yeah, so that's everything that we wanted to share with you. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to share.
Коллеги, большое спасибо за ваше выступление. Я пытался найти кнопку, где можно нажать «Покупать что-то из приборов». Вы нам вышлете эту кнопку?
Without any problem. We can share it with you, but it's only city internal, but we still can share some more details that are available for anyone outside of city as well, if you are interested in that.
Отлично. И
well, concerning the devices,
спасибо. И ваша организация уже долгие лет работает на территории Венгрии. Как вы видите работа и с государством, и в целом, как отношение поменялось именно для сотрудников с инвалидностью? Есть какие-то изменения, которые вы наблюдаете?
Well, personally, I feel that also a cultural change. It's not just city-based. I think if you think of Hungary as a country, there's a general approach to disability that is very isolated. So you suffer from a disability, then you cannot take it to yourself. You have to fix it yourself, and you have to, overcome your own barriers. And you don't discuss that with your coworkers, and you don't discuss them with your team. I've been in city for 3 years, and I've been involved with the network basically those 3 years as well. And I have seen that through our events, people are more willing to share their struggles. And if people are more willing to share their struggles, and they're also more willing to open up to a manager, for example, then the more you realize that the people around you are also exposed, or either, for example, caretakers of someone with a disability, or they also suffer from a chronic condition, be it, again, someone they're in the autism spectrum, or they have depression, or they have a sister that is in a wheelchair. I've seen a willingness to open up and a willingness to entertain other perspectives than their own. It's still a work in progress, and there's still a lot of resistance. But I think also COVID has influenced a lot how we see illness in the workplace. Because it really accommodations that people thought were not possible for your work. Like we have team leaders and managers that said, oh, we can't do remote office, or we can't offer flexible conditions because they don't fit our work style. Now with COVID and with remote work, we've noticed that, those assumptions were challenged, and now teams realize that a lot of the work can be performed in a flexible way rather than static, the traditional way that they were accustomed to. But it's definitely still a work in progress, but I do see a tendency to open up and to entertain, again, another experience rather than their personal one.
Есть еще один из наших спикеров, Денис, который хочет задать вопрос. Пожалуйста, Денис. Надо unmute.
Yeah, I've done that. I hope people can hear me. I have a question about your disability friendly. You said you have a sign or a symbol that you use, and that I'm wondering, is it something, it's based on what criteria? So how do you decide that a company, I'm assuming it's used throughout city, how do you decide whether they can use the symbol or not? How do they become disability friendly? If they just put up the sign to let people know, or are there criteria that they have to follow? And what are the criteria?
I can take that if Adrian, you're okay. So basically, let's say we were lucky enough to have this submission again recently. So we still remember all of the questions, so I can easily guide you through how it worked. So first of all, this award recognition, it is a Hungarian one by Hungarian government and some other NGO organizations. So they give this recognition not only to Citibank or offices, but any, let's say, working places. So for example, I don't know if you know the store Spar, it's called like this, a grocery store similar to Tesco. So for example, they also have this sign of the same that we are having. So it's basically all across the country. And the criteria for choosing, for giving the award are basically, there are like lots of criteria, literally like endless. So to make a submission, you need at least 1 month just to gather all of the information for that. So first of all, of course, you need to let them know if you have anyone actually who is living with disabilities and working in the company. Of course, it's very private information, so HR cannot even share that with you, but you can count like approximate number if you know that. For example, we as a co-chairs, we know some of the people who are having disabilities, visible or invisible, so we can count them. So when we give the reply back to the company, to the organization, we tell them like we have, let's say 5, but there is a possibility that we have more, but we cannot really identify them unless like there is a consent for that. Another thing is related to the accessibility of the building. So for example, in City Hungary, we have 2 buildings, and both of them should have at least the main criteria for accessibility requirements. We are checking in on all of these requirements, and we also provide more things that are basically happening in City Hungary in the buildings that are very much accessible for any type of disabilities. So for example, what we did last year, we have a lady who is using wheelchair. So we basically walked around both buildings with her, actually one of the buildings, but they are almost the same. So we walked around all 6 or 7 floors of our building, and she was checking door by door, facility by facility, emergency exit and everything, based on her experience. So not us just going and looking if it's good or not, but she was the one who was doing that. Afterwards, we made a report, and we sent this report to the facilities team in our company. And the facilities team basically currently working on some things to make it even better and more effective, for example, for her to be, let's say, to feel herself safer or more accessible in the company. So basically we send that report as well with all of the checks that, okay, we have this, we have this, we have that, and stuff like that. Then the company is asking, basically, the organization is asking us like, okay, what do you do basically for raising the awareness of disability? And then we just go through all of the initiatives that we are having. So for example, these 2 that we just mentioned, and of course we have lots of different events that are basically raising the awareness, and we are sharing that one as well. And then what we are really proud of is this workshop that we are sharing with colleagues. So we are basically educating others on how to be more open to disabilities and how basically to treat that. And at the same time, our ergonomic devices and the fact that City provides softwares for colleagues on the PC or on their devices to be more accessible is a big plus for us. So basically these are the main criteria, but there are also lots of others that we consider, that we also submitted, but I would not cover, let's say, all of them, because then we will need more time for that. But let's say these are the main criteria. And once we apply, it takes very long time to review. So right now we are in the review process for the updated recognition. So we still have it, but this year it will be again renewed. So right now we are applying for that. And after a while, we will get a reply. Hopefully it will be positive, because we did even more than it was before.
Yeah, HR is also involved. So recruiting practices are also, our processes for hiring are also part of these award review recognition. But yeah, so we do have to present a lot of information and a lot of details on our processes. So it's not just that you want to get the award and they give it to you. It's really a time, extensive process that companies have to fulfill in order to get these awards. And also we pride ourselves into being an equal opportunity employer. So with our job openings, you'll also see that. And it's Citi does really take very seriously diversity and inclusion in the workplace. So as I said at the beginning, there's us as Disability Network, but we have a host of other affinity groups and special interest affinity groups within Hungary alone that really try to hammer in the fact that we are a diverse company and that we welcome unique perspectives.
Спасибо большое. Наверное, у модератора есть возможность задать и один очень глупый вопрос. Может быть, он окажется глупым, потому что я не знаю ответ. Я вижу здесь наш переводчик Ксения Кутович, который очень хорошо с руками именно показывает на языке для людей, которые не слышат. У меня очень много друзей из Венгрии, и я знаю, что у вас очень-очень сложный язык. И мой вопрос, насколько вот в России этот язык, который с руками показывается, такой же, как в Венгрии? Вы могли бы понять друг другу?
I think I will cover this part because I think I know a bit about that. So by myself, I speak the, I don't know how to say it in English. I can speak with my hands, let's say, with gestures because of my parents, and they speak Russian. So I totally understand Russian language. But for example, when I walk in the street here in Hungary, me and Adriana, we are not Hungarian, so we basically don't know the language. But when I speak, when I walk on the street and I see people talking with their hands and gestures, I don't understand them. So I believe the language is very different from one to another. I hope that was the sign language. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah, I didn't know that in English. Yeah, sign language. I forgot that. I hope I answered your question this way. I think it's a big difference between English, so we don't understand them, let's say. They have their own type of sign language. Yes, there is an international one as well, but it's also, let's say, countries, they're implementing their own as well. So for example, in my country, I'm from Azerbaijan, they use Russian, but for example, my dad, he is using Azerbaijani, and sometimes they even don't understand each other. So I believe in Hungary, it's also some kind of another type of it that I personally don't understand.
Жалко, я надеялся, что мы нашли один международный язык, на котором мы все можем говорить, и мы будем все его выучить.
К сожалению, нет.
Спасибо вам за доклад еще раз. Мы продолжаем наше путешествие. Именно сейчас летаем виртуально в Великобританию, в Англию. И там будем познакомиться с Брэндоном Рауч и его коллега, который Давина Кричли, который нам расскажет более подробно, что такое Business Disability Форум Великобритании. Брэндон или Давина, я не знаю, кто именно начинает. Расскажите о вашем нетворке, пожалуйста.
Yes, yeah, no problem. Yeah. Hi there. Thanks, Mikhail. Thanks for having us. I hope you can hear me. My name is Davina Critchley, and I work at the Business Disability Forum based in the UK. My colleague Brendan Roach is also on the line, and I think he is just trying to sort our slides out. So thanks for that, Brendan.
Okay,
we're very
can you see the
happy...
slides now?
Yes, I can see them. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks, Brendan. So again, yeah, thank you for having us. It's really great to be here today. And also we just want to say thank you to the speakers that have come before us, because it's really interesting for us to hear the good work that's going on across other organizations for disabled people. It's fantastic. So we're going to talk to you a little bit today about the Business Disability Forum, and to give you a bit of an idea of what we do. So we are a non-profit organisation, we're a membership organisation, and we are based in the UK. We were founded around 30 years ago with 6 partners, and we were founded by somebody called Susan Scott Parker. Some of you may recognise the name. She is still quite well known in the world of disability. The founding partners came together because they felt that there was limited guidance around really for employers and disability, and that there wasn't a lot of support for businesses. So this was how it all started. So we currently have around 350 members and partners, and over 50% of these members and partners have a global presence. So Brendan, if you could take me to the next slide. Thank you very much. Thank you. So it's already been mentioned that there are 1 billion people worldwide with disabilities. In the UK, we have 26 million disabled people. And we believe that these people, they have a contribution to make to society and to workplaces. And that's why we exist at the Business Disability Forum. So we exist to remove barriers in business and in government that stop disabled people from being able to contribute. So how do we do this? So we do this by working with our members and our partners, both in the UK and abroad, to become disability smart. So Brendan will talk to you a little bit more about what that means to be disability smart. But for now, I just want to show you who some of our members and partners are on the next slide. And we're pleased to say that the representation is growing all the time. And it's also nice to see some of our partners and members actually involved in this conference as well. So that's really great. So we have a range of services available at the Business Disability Forum. I'm going to try and summarize them now a little bit. So Brendan, if you could take me to the next slide. Thank you. So we have an advice service at the Business Disability Forum, and it's generally seen as one of the most useful features of the membership. We have 3 experts who staff that advice service. And the purpose of it really is to respond to any disability related question or query that a member or partner has around disability. So very often it's used by human resources and line managers who need specific help with case management issues, but it's not limited to that by any means at all. So we are able to respond to any query really or question that members or partners have related to disability. So we like to respond to all sorts of queries. We troubleshoot, we talk through ideas that some of our partners and our members have. And just to give you an example of the kind of queries that we have lots of queries around assistive technology and how members and partners need to source assistive technology for their employees. We have lots of queries around mental health, sickness and absence management. And we have a lot of queries around neurodiversity and working from home, and particularly working from home at the moment with the COVID situation. Ultimately, the purpose of the advice service really is that it boils down to the individual and advising organisations on what they can do to remove those barriers that better support their staff. We also have a number of task forces and networks. So we have a technology task force and we have a global task force. Those are just two of them. And both of these are designed to bring people together from our partnership who have a common interest. So Brendan will talk a bit more about our global task force, but just to give you an idea of what it is and why we put it together. And we put it together because lots of our members and partners working in organizations that have a global responsibility as part of their role. And we wanted to bring them together in a safe space that allows them to share and to collaborate together. And as part of this sharing and collaboration, our task forces work on projects together. So really exciting and innovative projects. And at the moment, our technology task force are working on a number of things, from supporting staff with understanding and how to use and implement assistive technology at work, to help building the business case and lobbying senior leaders to make the business case for accessible technology across organizations. The technology task force also created something that we call the accessibility maturity model, which is a framework designed to allow organizations to self-assess their progress in terms of digital accessibility. So to see where they are from one year to the next, what their journey looks like and how they're progressing. So it's a really useful tool. We also have consultancy and training. We have a learning and development department that works alongside our membership and our partnership, and they work with members and partners to roll out various training projects. It could be anything depending on what that organization needs. Just to give you an example of the kind of consultancy that we do lots of work on workplace adjustments. That's what we call it over here in the UK. I think across the world, it's possibly known as workplace accommodations. So we look at the workplace accommodations process from start to finish. We look at policy and we advise on how businesses and organizations can improve that accommodations process. We do quite a lot of insight work with our clients. We hold focus groups, we do one-to-ones, we do surveys. And the point is that we talk to disabled employees and we talk to them in a safe space that allows us to then feed back to the organisation what kind of changes need to be made for the better. And we do lots of training around upskilling managers on workplace adjustments and how to implement them. We find time and time again that managers lack confidence when it comes to knowing how to put a workplace accommodation in place for a disabled member of staff. So we do lots of work around developing this confidence and supporting managers. So Brendan, next slide, please. We have a whole host of resources and toolkits, which we've developed over a period of time, very often in partnership with our organisations and our members. We like to ask them for case studies so we can show the world and share the world what good work is going on. We have resources that range from people manager guides to disability-specific guides, and we have toolkits on neurodiversity, inclusive communications, mental health, all sorts of things. And more recently, we developed a COVID-19 toolkit back in March because we knew that our members and partners would need support around COVID, and particularly with how to support their employees through the crisis. And we update that regularly. That gets updated frequently with the guidance and the advice that comes from government. So our toolkits include videos, case studies, case law, all interesting and useful things. We also run network events. So this week, or last week now, actually, we held our first ever online virtual conference, a bit like this conference here. And in the normal world, before COVID, we would run various award ceremonies and all sorts of events, which we're now looking at moving everything online because we do really want to keep bringing people together. And just finally, we have a research and policy department whose role it is to respond to government consultation. So the unique position we have here at the BDF is that we are able to bring the voice of disabled people and business together so that they can inform government consultation. And we have a seat at the table when it comes to policy, and we take part and we lead on various research pieces. So just recently we finished a consultation on carers and what we need to be doing both from a government level and in business to help support carers better in the workplace. We also recently did a very large survey on workplace adjustments, accommodations, which showed that there's still a lot of work to do in terms of how quickly workplace accommodations are being provided for people. Some people are still waiting a very long time for their adjustments. We also found that many employees find the conversation around asking for their accommodations very difficult, and there is still that fear of stigma there. So useful for us to have this information, lots of work to do still. We also found, we also found a lot of information about the stigma, which was concerning, but we know what we need to do to try and move that forward. This research, along with the other bits of research that we have, are all available publicly. We are happy to share them as part of the conference here today. We would be really happy for people to take a look at some of the work that we're doing. So a bit earlier, I mentioned disability smart organisations and what that means and what that looks like. So I'm going to hand over to Brendan to talk through a little bit more about that. Over to you, Brendan.
Thank you, Davina. Before I carry on, can I just check that you can hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you, yep.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, thank you for that, and hello to everybody at the conference, and just to echo Davina's thanks for the fellow participants, but also Denise and the organisers as well. It's a real privilege and an honour for us to be here today. So Davina has shared a little bit about how we work with business and how we have been doing that in the nearly 30 years that we have existed in the UK. And I was just going to talk a bit about some of the things that we have learned and some of the frameworks and the ways of thinking about disability as a business issue that we hope might be of use for you and that you might be able to take back and consider in your own organisations. And I'll talk also a bit about some of the work that I lead on. So my role at Business Disability Forum is that I lead on our international projects and the work that we do specifically with our members and partners that are global. So in terms of some of those guiding principles then, so Business Disability Forum, we have been in existence now for nearly 30 years. As Davina says, we were founded by Susan Scott Parker, who I know Denise and others will know. And during that time, we have learned a lot about how disability impacts on a business. And we talk about, sometimes we refer to disability confident organizations or disability smart organizations. And that's a term that is now used a lot. We see it used across the UK. We see those terms used internationally. But for us, it's really important to define what that means, because we want to provide organizations with a framework that they can use to help them understand how to become a disability smart organization. So we have actually defined it as meaning 4 very specific things. So we thought it would be useful to share that with you today, so that you might consider how your organization compares against this definition. So how we defined a disability smart organization then is 4 things. And firstly is that a disability smart organization understands how disability impacts on the whole organization. So often when we talk to organizations that are just starting to think about how they can become more disability inclusive, they will perhaps focus on their recruitment function, or perhaps on the built environment. These are very common places where we tend to think about disability. But what we actually have learned over the years is that disability impacts on every part of a business. So it's just as relevant to the customer experience, to your procurement provision, or your digital technology. So that's really the first thing that a disability smart organization understands, that this is a whole organization consideration. The second part of being a disability confident organization is that the organization will recognize from the outset that disability is really part of the human condition. It's something that affects all of us in one way or another, either through ourselves having a disability, our friends, our colleagues, our families. Organizations understand that most disabilities are acquired during a person's working life. So it's very possible that you will have colleagues who are not disabled now, but who will become disabled over time. And of course, as we age and as our societies age, of course, the incidence of disability will increase with that demographic trend as well. So these organizations that we work with and refer to as being disability smart, they understand this, and they don't wait for problems to arise or for people to request support. They're proactive in their approach. So they will look at their buildings and their technology, and they will make sure that they are barrier free to people with mobility impairments or visual impairments. They will look at their contact service provision and make sure that it is accessible to people who have hearing impairments or speech impairments, for example. So they'll do all of that, all of those things proactively and in advance. So the next characteristic of being a disability smart organization is that the organization, having done that proactive work, will recognize that, of course, disability is a very individual thing and will impact on people individually. So there will always be people that have specific requirements or specific needs in the workplace in order to be able to perform to their full potential. So what we see is an increasing kind of professionalization of the service or process for making accommodations or workplace adjustments for individuals. So many organizations following the lead of companies like Lloyds Banking Group in the UK, for example, who engineered a streamlined process to ensure that colleagues can get the accommodations or the adjustments they need in a timely and effective manner, and that those people using the service, both the disabled employee and the line manager, are treated as customers in that endeavor. So there's a real shift in the way that that process is perceived. And then lastly, a disability smart organization will not make assumptions about what an individual can or can't do based on medical labels. And I think this is something that Ignacio from Repsol was talking about, some of the assumptions that people made. He used the example of people with a visual impairment who use a guide dog, for example. So this is about not making assumptions because you hear that somebody, say, has a visual impairment. Often we will hear then that employers will assume that that person cannot work safely by themselves, for example. What if there is a fire? What if there is a need to evacuate? We hear of well-meaning managers who will not offer a promotion to a colleague that they know has a mental health condition because they have made the well-meaning but incorrect assumption that that would be too stressful for that individual. So we see this doesn't happen in organizations that we work with that we would consider to be disability smart. So as I mentioned, the first characteristic of a disability smart organization is that it really understands how disability impacts on the whole organization. So this is something that we learned quite early on in our existence. And I should say that our original focus at the Business Disability Forum was very much on employment, recruitment and retention of people with disabilities. But as we learned that disability does impact on all of these different parts of the business, we felt that our name needed to catch up with the reality. And as Denise mentioned in her introduction, we changed our name to the Business Disability Forum to reflect the fact that disability is a whole organization, it's a whole business affair. It's not just about employment, it's not just about recruitment. So what we did then was to help businesses to understand how disability impacts on the whole organization is we created a model, we created a framework that we call the Disability Standard. And this model then is to help employers understand how disability impacts on a range of different business functions. And you'll see here on the screen that we have identified key areas ranging from learning and development to recruitment to things like procurement and communication and the built environment and digital technology. Now, what we see in the organizations that have been doing this for a long time and do this well is that they can demonstrate that they have ownership and understanding and leadership in all of these different departments. So when I started working in disability inclusion many years ago, you might find say, for example, somebody in diversity and inclusion who would be trying to become an expert in how disability relates to websites, or how it relates to buildings or recruitment. But actually the organizations that were doing this really well were the ones that could say, well, actually our digital technology team understand how disability impacts on that function, and our premises team, they understand the requirements from building regulations in terms of building inclusive environments. So everybody across the business understands how disability impacts and what they need to do to get it right. So in that respect, these areas are distinct and separate. But the other really important point to make is that they're actually all interconnected. So for example, if a recruitment department decides that it wants to become a disability inclusive hirer, it's not going to be possible to do that in isolation. You will need to work with your colleagues in learning and development, for example, because it will be important to build the skills and confidence and knowledge of recruiting managers. You will need to make sure that your procurement practices are enabling you to work with recruitment providers who are able to demonstrate the right skills to be able to attract and help you to recruit candidates with disabilities. Likewise, if you're inviting people to assessments or interviews within your buildings, you'll need to work with colleagues in your premises team. And of course, virtually all recruitment now contains a digital element as well. So you will need to be working with your colleagues in the digital part of the business as well to be able to get that right. So lastly, just to finish then, we, as Davina mentioned at the start of the call, we work with a range of different organizations. So about 350 members we have within our membership, and around half of them have a global presence. So just over 150 companies we work with that have a presence outside of the UK. The models that we have talked about here in our presentation, we have found that many of the principles are universal, but also many of the models have been effectively adapted across the world. So it's been fantastic in my time at Business Disability Forum to see models like our disability standard to be adapted for use in countries as varied as Australia and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and South Korea and others. So what I just wanted to leave with was that our global task force is the group of folks from within our membership who have global responsibility for their organization's approach to disability inclusion. So as Davina said, some of the organizations involved in this network are also part of our network in the UK, the likes of EY and Citi and IKEA. So what we have found is that increasingly those global companies are developing a global commitment to disability inclusion. So they want to get it right for their colleagues with disabilities, whether they are in London or Madrid or in Moscow. So that commitment is there to develop that globally consistent approach. Slowly, companies are moving towards developing a strategy to make that happen. So about 23% of companies that we did some research with very recently said that they had developed a global disability inclusion strategy. And those that have really stressed the importance of enabling colleagues at country level to be able to interpret and implement that global commitment in a way that is culturally and legally appropriate for that particular country. So we haven't done any mapping, and I think it would be an interesting exercise actually to look at where our global members have a presence in Russia, because I know that some of them are already involved in this network. But really, I guess a final thought and an offer really, we love to collaborate at BDF, so it would be great to bring Denise or Oksana to our global task force to present on the brilliant work that you're doing in Russia, because I know that those companies that aren't involved in this network already would love to ensure that their colleagues in Russia are participating. So that's a final thought and an offer for collaboration as well. So I will hand back over to you, Mikhail.
Спасибо большое, Брэндон. У меня есть один вопрос. Как рекрутер, скажите, пожалуйста, последние 6-12 месяцев двигалось вперед, когда вы сейчас напоминали собеседование, люди приходят на собеседование, они все онлайн сейчас у вас проходят или люди все равно еще приходят друг к другу?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So in the UK, most of the organizations that we work with have moved to virtually 100% of home working. So that shift to online has applied not only to the way that companies work and provide services, but also to the way that they hire as well. So recruiters have had to think about, well, how do we do this in an inclusive way for candidates with a disability? So clearly online interviews can offer a more accessible and inclusive experience for colleagues that might find traveling difficult, but it can prevent a whole different set of challenges for candidates, say, who have a hearing impairment.
Я вижу тоже вопрос из чата. Татьяна Разоренова из компании Repsol спрашивает, как финансируется ваша организация и какие обязательства, commitments должны давать ваши члены.
Yeah, so our model is that we are a membership model. So our members pay an annual subscription to be part of the forum, and that is how we're funded. So we don't get money from government. We don't have charitable donations. We are 100% funded by the businesses that we support.
Спасибо. И вы помните, может быть, сначала Денис Роза говорила о том, что она, по-моему, еще для себя не определила, насколько пандемия – это хорошо для больше inclusion или меньше, потому что, с одной стороны, люди могут сейчас из дома быть inclusive, да, и работать из дома, допустим, человек в wheelchair, в коляске. Но с другого конца, как вы смотрите на это? Пандемия, COVID помогает больше в inclusion, или вы тоже немножко скептически на это смотрите?
Shall I take that, Brendan? It's an interesting question. And we have had quite mixed responses from our members and partners, with many of our organisations telling us that for the first time disabled people have felt included, with many employees saying that they are better set up at home than they are in the workplace. However, we have also heard that some employees are not doing too well at home either. So I think there's still a lot of work to do, and I think employers need to speak to their employees and to keep up that link and that connection with their staff who aren't working in offices. But I think it is a mixed picture.
Спасибо. Давина, я могу еще один вопрос задать? Татьяна из Repsol хотел еще узнавать про обязательства членов, которые входят в вашу организацию, кроме, конечно, платить взнос, на что они еще именно согласятся, какие у них обязательства.
So becoming a member of Business Disability Forum, there is no charter or one commitment that you have to make. We work with organizations that are at a variety of different stages along the journey to becoming more disability inclusive. So I think the fact that our model requires a financial investment, shows that there is already a commitment on behalf of the business. And then really it's about us meeting that business at where they are in the journey. So some of our members, if I think about organizations like Barclays Bank, like HSBC, for example, that are really real leaders in the UK and globally. They have been with us since the start, so 30 years of good practice. But we recruit around 50 to 60 new members every year, and these are organizations that are at the very start of their journey. So yeah, no specific commitments or standards. It's really about working in partnership with business to help them to measure and then improve their own individual performance.
Спасибо большое. Больше я не вижу вопросов, поэтому, наверное, мы можем двигаться еще дальше, именно в сторону Запада. Наше путешествие сейчас продолжается именно в Америку через Большой океан. Опять это именно возможность из-за пандемии сейчас такого. Хорошо, я хотел бы представить Jill Houghton. Для меня, как руководитель рекрутингового агентства, особенно интересно увидеть, услышать, потому что она создала организацию, которая, насколько я понимаю, уже больше, чем 60 тысяч кандидатов, сотрудников с инвалидностью устроила на работу. Это гораздо больше, чем мы как рекрутинговый бизнес делаем с теми сотрудниками, которые без инвалидности. Поэтому, Jill, конечно, мы хотели узнать о ваших тайнах, как вы работаете, как это все работает, и в том числе, как вы могли привлекать 26 из главных руководителей предприятия, из Accenture, из Microsoft и так далее, чтобы они участвовали в вашем проекте. The floor is yours. Спасибо.
Hello.
Hello. We can hear you very well.
Excellent. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. It's a real privilege. And we've really valued the opportunity to work with Perspectiva over the years. So I have a PowerPoint today and look forward to engaging in dialogue with you. Can we, next slide? So for those of you that may not be familiar with Disability In, we are a global nonprofit that exists to empower business to achieve disability inclusion and equality. We work with over probably closer to 250 multinational corporations at this point. And in the US, we have affiliates across the country, meaning local chapters where business is coming together locally. I think if I was to paint a picture of our organization, I would paint an intersection of where business and talent with disabilities intersect. Next slide. So you've had an event all day. This is something that you know at your core, but just calling out that, you know, so many of us have disabilities that you can't see. So for example, just talking about myself, you may see a middle-aged white woman, but what you can't see is that I have a learning disability. So I have a non-apparent disability that kind of put me on this path, honestly. I didn't set out to work in this space, but when I went to go take the entrance exam to go to law school and I failed it miserably, we had a family convention and that took me to Plan B, which was to go to Washington, D.C. And it was a long time ago. It was about 30 years ago when the Americans with Disabilities Act in the US was passing. And my senator, I grew up in a little town, very rural community. People honk to say hello, not get out of my way. And my senator was Senator Dole, and he was one of the primary sponsors of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so I had the opportunity to be really just an intern, but that experience really set me on this path. And personally, a little bit more about myself along the way, I married somebody with a spinal cord injury, and now we're parents, and I have an 11-year-old who also has non-apparent disabilities. He has ADHD and pretty significant anxiety. So just kind of getting personal there. Next slide. Excellent. So what this calls attention to is Disability In partnered, Disability In and another organization called the American Association of People with Disabilities. We partnered with Accenture because we wanted a business case. We wanted to be able to demonstrate why disability inclusion matters. And in fact, that companies that are inclusive of people with disabilities, that it actually improves their bottom line. So we teamed with Accenture, and Accenture created a report called Getting to Equal, the Disability Inclusion Advantage. And they studied companies that participate in our Disability Equality Index. And what they found is that those companies that were participating in the Disability Equality Index and really working on improving their disability inclusion across their enterprise, that they in fact had 28% higher revenue, 30% better performance on their economic profit margins, and 2 times higher net income. So this was really good news, because this gave us something that we already knew, is that, you know, disability inclusion isn't just the right thing to do, but that it actually makes business sense. So next slide. The data, as I mentioned, came out of our Disability Equality Index, which I think is going to pop up here in a second. And so for those of you that are not familiar, next slide. With the Disability Equality Index, it's a benchmarking tool that really gives businesses that are based in the US at this point an objective score and a roadmap on their disability inclusion and policies and practices. So it really creates an opportunity for them to identify opportunities to do better. So next slide. The Disability Equality Index really looks at 6 categories. So there are 5 weighted categories. One is culture and leadership, enterprise-wide access, employment practices, community engagement, supplier diversity, and then there's a non-weighted category called non-US operations. If we could just go to the next slide. So, it includes these 6 categories. It contains weighted and non-weighted questions, meaning but at the end of the day, companies need to answer all of the questions. And for those companies that score an 80, a 90, or a 100, we celebrate them as being a best place to work for disability inclusion. Although we really call out that even if a company scores 100, obviously there's no such thing as perfection. These are really large companies and large law firms. And we know that what this means is that they're committed to doing better, right? They're on the journey and they want to advance disability inclusion. For companies that score below an 80, we never acknowledge who they are, because we look at this tool as being a carrot and not a stick. And so it's not intended to call companies out for not doing well. That's been an opportunity for us to get more companies involved. Currently in the US, there are over 150 of the Fortune 1000 companies that participate. There's over half of the Fortune 100. So if we look at just this most recent year, 2020, we had 247 companies participate. Next slide. Maybe you're seeing it and there's a delay. So just kind of digging into what's in the survey. So, and how you get to the total number of points. So there's a lot of focus put on culture and leadership. In fact, there's 30 points in this category, and you can see that culture breaks down into 10 and leadership, or culture breaks down into 20 and leadership breaks down into 10. And that's really by design, because I think that we all know that we can have the greatest strategies in the world, but culture and leadership eat strategies every day. And so it's really important that companies are working on their culture and their leadership to create that environment where individuals can really own their identity and flourish. You'll see that there's 10 points on enterprise-wide access. So this is really all about the accessibility of the organization, which sometimes lives in IT, but a lot of times it's more of a hub and spoke model and kind of lives throughout the operation. The next category, employment practices, is 40 points. And you drill down and you can see that benefits is worth 10, recruitment is worth 10, employment, education, retention, and advancement is worth 10, and accommodations is worth 10. You know, I think one of the things that I'd call out in this category is, obviously this is the biggest point category, and you can look at things like accommodations. Like most of the you know, every company that we have the opportunity to work with has an accommodations policy. But the key is, do the employees know what the policy is and how to find it? Do managers know what the policy is? Do managers know who pays for the accommodation? So, you know, there's a lot of goodness that comes from just the accommodations practice itself. Community engagement is worth 10 points. So this is how the company is really engaged and interacting with the community at large. Supplier diversity is worth 10 points because we know that being a business owner is a form of employment. And most of the companies that we work with have supplier diversity programs where they are focused on doing business with companies that are owned by women or owned by minorities or owned by LGBT business owners. And so this is an opportunity for a company to include doing business with disability-owned businesses. At Disability In, we actually run a global certification for disability-owned businesses. And then the last category is non-US operations. This is non-weighted at this point. And this is asking them questions related to their non-discrimination policies, to the work that they do globally with their employee resource groups. Next slide. You're going to see a slide. This just shows you kind of our journey. So in 2014, we piloted this tool with 48 companies, and you can see over time we've grown. So this most recent cycle, there were 247 companies that participated, 74 of which were new. Next slide. This gives you a visual depiction of the top participating industries. So you'll see that tech and financial services are right up there at the top, and some of the largest participating companies. Next slide. These next slides give you kind of a picture of lots of logos to show you who some of the top scoring companies are. So you can keep advancing. So you can see, you know, a lot of these multinational brands, MasterCard, Visa, UPS, Sony. Next slide, Marriott International. These are the hundreds. The next slide, I think, shows you the 90s. You can keep going. There's the 90s. You can keep going. There's the 80s. You can keep going. Just kind of giving you a visual. So that's perfect. So in terms of the non-US operations category, what we know is that of this 247 that participated in 2020, 75% of those companies have operations outside of the US. So very likely that they have operations in Russia. So they have a workforce of 7.5 million internationally outside of the US. 75% of those companies that have operations outside of the US have disability inclusive non-discrimination policies. So they have included disability in their non-discrimination policies. And you'll see that 42% of those companies with operations outside of the US have disability-focused employee resource groups, or some people call them business resource groups. Next slide. So while we're advancing to the next slide, the next slide calls your attention to the fact that in the US, it's the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so 30 years ago here, we were focused on things like gaining access to buildings, gaining access to public transportation. And if we fast forward to 30 years later, I think that the new front door, and it's really not new, right? But it's technology, and it's accessing mobile applications, accessing these remote platforms. How many times are we all participating in these meetings only to find out that they're not accessible? And so there's a real opportunity and a responsibility, I think, that we have moving forward to working together on things around accessibility. So we launched this campaign. It's a global campaign, and it's really focused on the fact that we all have a role to play in working together to build a global economy that's inclusive of all people with disabilities. Next slide. This just shows you the next slide, I think, if we go there. Is going to show you a snapshot of where we're at on this journey. So to date, there are 316 corporations who have joined in, 26 CEOs, although I think we announced 4 more today, and 25 investors. These are multinational corporations with a footprint around the globe, and these investors represent investors from around the globe. Next slide. I think that the next slide is a visual depiction of the CEOs that are in when we get there. So to just show you some of the brands that are in, and what that means is that they're taking action. They're urging their peers to utilize the Disability Equality Index and to take action in advancing disability inclusion. The next slide is a visual depiction, I think, of the investors that are in. So more to be announced. The next slide. On the investor side of the house, so using the business case, we joined forces with some of the world's largest investors who basically said that disability inclusion is the next frontier in ESG investing. And together they formed a joint investor statement on corporate disability inclusion. And so we continue to gain signatories on the joint investor statement. And these investors on this next slide, when we get there, manage some of the world's largest assets. So to date, we have signatories that manage nearly $3 trillion in assets under management. So I really thank you for this opportunity. I think I'd love to pause and engage in dialogue with you.
Это была очень впечатлительная презентация. И есть уже первые вопросы. Джилл, как вы думаете, насколько вот ситуация с ковидом помогает сейчас или поменяет именно подход в бизнесе с точки зрения нашей темы?
For some reason, the translation is not working.
So I read out the question. Do you think the COVID situation has made organizations rethink the functional responsibilities, which in turn indirectly made them more inclusive?
So I think that the COVID situation has created lots of challenges, right? And at the same time, opportunity. So on the challenging side, you know, I think that a lot of these, whether it's these remote platforms, it's working in the cloud, it's our mobile app, it's our payroll system, a lot of these pieces of technology that we're using are not accessible. And so if I'm an employee who's blind, or I'm an employee who's deaf, or I'm an employee who uses a different keyboard, it becomes a challenge, right? If these things are not accessible. At the same time, I think it becomes an opportunity for companies to engage with, you know, the greatest resource that companies have are their people. And so engaging with your disability employee resource group and listening to your employees on challenges related to accessibility, what is and isn't working. And then taking action. I think that the other thing that COVID-19 has done is it's really created an opportunity for us to talk about mental health. And we're isolated, you know, so we're feeling extra amounts of anxiety. And I think that it's an opportunity for us to lead in a human manner and to really get to know people in ways that we didn't know each other, right? So our kids are in the background, our dogs are barking, and maybe we're having a rough day. And it's an opportunity for us to really, be in tune with each other and lean in as a corporation and look at things like our benefits and see if there's things that we should be doing or we could be doing to strengthen our benefits around mental health, and to strengthen our leadership. And so we see companies hosting town hall meetings and talking about these issues in ways that they would have never talked about. So while it's a great challenge, I think it's also an opportunity.
Спасибо. У нас эта тема очень важна для наших зрителей. И здесь есть еще один вопрос из сотрудники из Disney, Walt Disney Russia. Они ваш партнер в вашей организации. И вопрос по поводу DEI Score. Насколько он эвалюирует себе сама компания, и как вот этот score работает, как можно именно получать свой assessment.
So the way the tool works is right now, registration is live, and companies have until the end of January to register. And then beginning in February, the survey tool goes live. The survey on average takes a company about 40 hours to participate. So it's a commitment. And it's not just to check the box. I mean, companies have to answer the questions and then substantiate their answers. So for example, if the question is, does your diversity and inclusion statement specifically call out disability, then they have to turn around and provide us with a link to show us where that exists. So with a company like Walt Disney, for example, when you participate in the survey, you're bringing together really a cross-functional team from across the business. Maybe one person has the lead in actually inputting the data into the system and hitting submit, but it's a team of people across the company who are feeding information in. And it creates an opportunity for employee resource groups and businesses to really start to raise issues. So for example, I'm thinking of one very large multinational company who, when they were working on the questions, they said, this gave us an opportunity to go into our e-commerce side of the business and talk about accessibility of the technology. And if we hadn't had this tool, we never had access to go over there and raise these issues. And this tool gave us that opportunity to go over there and raise these issues. So, you know, companies participate, and then we meet with you and we do a deep dive, and we'll, you know, walk through where you were able to answer yes and where you were able to answer no. So kind of like where you could focus moving forward. And I think the one thing to call out is that over time, the survey evolves. So to date, we've had one round where it got harder, where some of the non-weighted questions became weighted. This year, the tool was modernized. So we didn't make weighted changes to the questions, but we strengthened some of the existing weighted questions and we added some non-weighted questions. And quite frankly, we used COVID-19 as an opportunity. We have a committee that's comprised of people that work in and out of business, that have disabilities and are allies, and they sit in different parts of the business. And so it was an opportunity to lean in on topics like accessibility and mental health, and really strengthen what exists that's in the survey. The survey lives in the public domain 365 days a year. It's very transparent. Companies can go out there and they can download the questions. And if you don't want to publicly participate, then it's out there. It's intended to be a tool to help a company on their journey.
Спасибо. Ну и мы, наверное, не можем не задать такой вопрос. Вы так близко в Вашингтоне к власти. Не будем, конечно, спросить, кого вы думаете будет выиграть выборы, чтобы потом Россия не снова обвинили, что мы влияем на выборы. Но как вам кажется, насколько эта тема инвалидность, эта тема в вашей предвыборной кампании, президента или будущих потенциальных президентов, для них эта тема, или это еще не вырос именно для такого ранга, что это могла бы быть тема, как сельскохозяйство и так далее?
So I bleed purple. I'm not red or blue. I'm nonpartisan, bipartisan. Don't put ourselves in the camp of one party versus the other, because obviously we work with a lot of diverse viewpoints, and it's, you know, an interesting time here. There's one side that's very maybe more organized when it comes to disability. The other side is probably organized as well, but may not be as likely to talk about it because of the divisive nature of the campaign. I think as a community, the one place where we're really like together is just really focusing on registering to vote and getting the vote out. So regardless of if an individual is going to vote for one party or the other, that people are getting out there and making sure that people with disabilities are part of the election. So that's really important. I think that there's a lot of focus on making sure that the election itself is accessible and that voting is accessible so that people have that opportunity when they are registered to participate. You know, I mean, obviously it's a very contentious race. And, you know, there's a lot going on here, right? In addition to the election, you know, the racial inequality that exists, and just there's a lot of unrest. So that's just giving you a very politically correct answer because, you know, just really trying to make sure that we're working to infuse disability inclusion on both sides of the aisle. And we do have friends in both parties.
Спасибо большое. Мы сегодня услышали из вашей презентации, что если компания именно пользует вашу культуру, которую вы продвигаете через вашу организацию, можно видеть прямой эффект в развитии их перформанс, их, насколько она может расти в бизнес. Мы это правильно поняли именно из вашей презентации?
Absolutely. That's what the research shows.
И поэтому очень много из зрителей хотели бы получать ваши презентации, чтобы эту тему тоже начинать здесь, в России и в других странах, чтобы бизнес могла бы тоже от этого получать отдачу. Большое спасибо в сторону Вашингтона.
Thank you very much.
И насколько я понимаю, мы остаемся сейчас в Америке. У нас заключительный спикер будет Дженнифер Доллар, которая работает в компании Kelly Services, старшим директором по внедрению бизнес-процессов. И она с коллегами создала такую программу, которая называется «Компас», который помогает именно подбирать людей с инвалидностью, новой работы среди клиентов Kelly Services и в том числе внутри Kelly Services. Kelly Services огромная компания по всему миру, тоже работает в России, поэтому, Дженнифер, мы хотели бы узнать немножко более подробно, как ваша система Компас работает и какие, может быть, сложности были ее внедрять. Спасибо, что вы с нами. Вам придется unmute. You have to unmute yourself.
I've got it. Thank you very much. Apologies about that. But thank you for having me today. I'm going to bring up the slides here. And hopefully you can see them.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. All right, let me do this and so I don't have to look at myself, and we'll get this out of the way. All right, so thank you everybody again for having me. I appreciate you inviting me to this. I hope you find the information that I shared today helpful. And of course, any questions you have, I'm available for today for questions or even in the future. So what is inclusion and diversity at Kelly? So this is our textbook response, if you will. And it is something that we live and breathe every day at Kelly. Our noble purpose at our organization is to connect people to work in ways that enrich their lives. And we embrace that. And in everything that we do, whether it's working directly with our talent to have them placed on an assignment, whether it's for our full-time employees that we hire to work around the world to support our operations. And it's also with our customers and our suppliers, individuals that we work with every day to help them understand and embrace why it's important to have an inclusive workforce. We have a definition around diversity, right? That's getting invited to the party. You got your invitation, you're excited to go. But inclusion takes it a step further, right? That's where you're being asked to dance. You're not just kind of hanging out, but you're included. You're with everybody doing the same thing, enjoying yourselves, learning, and just having a wonderful time. That's really what inclusion means to us. And then a feeling of belonging is really being engaged to pick the playlist. So now you've been asked not only to dance, but you're providing input. Your strengths, your knowledge is valuable, and we want that. We want you to share that with us and with our customers. We have a talent first mentality at Kelly. We're there to be their advocate always. Whether it's for their career, helping support flexibility so they can address things in their personal lives, whatever that we can do to do that. And as we focus on Compass, when we started developing that, there's a small group of us and we said, hey, we need to get better at supporting our teams and our frontline teams that work directly with our customers and suppliers so that they can engage this whole pool of talent that otherwise usually doesn't get looked at, or maybe is more of like, yeah, we'll look at them later type of thing. But really, we created Compass so we have what we call a buy versus build talent mentality. Where do we want to build that internally? Where do we want to build programs, training? And we do that, of course, every day. We have training for all of our team members on the Americans with Disabilities Act, engagement, harassment, all of the typical corporate policies you would think of. But there's an additional experience that we feel that sometimes you may need to buy or partner, and where you would align with a group or individuals that this is their specialty. This is what they do every day, and can provide that support to our frontline teams so that, again, we are creating that inclusive environment. They're helping us identify the talent so we can bring them into Kelly and find them work. So again, Kelly's Compass program, we launched it officially in 2019, but we did a lot of the research really in 2017 and 18. And again, a small group of us as part of an employee resource group called Leaders in Action. And we said, we've got to develop something. What can we do? Other than just training, and training is important, but what else can we provide to our teams? And really what we focused on were individuals that just had trouble either getting into the workforce initially, or maybe they were, and for whatever reason, they had to stop working and have trouble now re-entering it. And these initiatives will help people navigate their way throughout the workforces, finding things that can work for them. And that includes groups like military veterans, victims of abuse, as well as people with disabilities. So in 2019, we did officially launch our Best Buddies National Jobs Program. And we do have a focus in the United States initially. And we started with a pilot. We did it at our corporate office in Troy, Michigan, as well as in our Detroit market. So the Detroit market would be for our external customers, so our branch facilities finding jobs for our customers. So in late 2019, we were able to place 3 individuals, our first Best Buddies talent placements, and they are still working with us. Even throughout COVID, our corporate offices have been shut since mid-March, but because of our ability to work remotely and get people out working remotely quickly, these individuals are still able to work. So we had not needed to furlough or lay them off. They're still productive, they're engaged with their teams and their leaders. So it's definitely something we're excited about, that we're able to continue to keep that going. So as we grow in 2020 and 2021, we're focusing really looking at the United States. We've begun to speak with our groups in Europe as well to see if we want to develop a partnership there and be able to do a jobs program with our teams and our customers there as well. So some other examples that we have when we talk about build versus buy. Best Buddies was our buy example, right? So we've aligned with an organization that has expertise. They bring that with them, the talent, they have the training, where we're able to not only train the individuals that are supporting them, so our recruiters and our account managers, but also our customers. So these are a couple of other examples where we've partnered with other organizations as part of our Kelly Disabilities Network. So we've partnered with various vocational rehabilitation organizations, other networking organizations, as well as government or publicly funded resource programs. I've listed a couple here just to give you an example. Our first one is Kelly Connect. Kelly Connect is a virtual call center. So there's no building, everybody works from home. They're provided their equipment by Kelly. And they do take calls supporting clients 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's typically like around technical support to support different phones and laptops and such. That's been around since about 2010. But what the uniqueness, other than being 100% virtual work environment, they have 6,000 total employees working across the United States. Out of them, a little over 10% have a disability. And the really awesome thing that we were able to do with Kelly Connect is, not only was Kelly Connect engaged in providing adaptive equipment if it was needed, different types of schedules if needed, based on someone maybe needing some additional flexibility. But when partnering with our customers, they saw us doing that. And those customers said, hey, we want to be a part of this too. We want to help. And actually our biggest Kelly Connect customer actually developed code, which helped enable visually impaired employees to be able to see the screens better, as well as it would talk back to them. So it would read the screens for them. And it wasn't a Kelly adaptation, it was a software adaptation that customer did for us and for our employees. So the amount of engagement and collaboration with our customer has been phenomenal on this program. The other program we have is with an organization called On My Own. It is another nonprofit organization like Best Buddies, and they do assist young adults with developmental disabilities to prepare them for job searching. So we do various activities like job fairs, resume building, leadership development, and we have a group of Kelly volunteers that regularly participate with On My Own, and we bring them to our Kelly Services headquarters, various talent, and we do various stations with them. So we have different things set up for them to go through interviews, practicing, getting a resume together, how to present themselves during an interview. And then we'll actually conduct on-site real job interviews. So it's been a real exciting program. Again, just launched last year and starting to get a lot of momentum, more so this year. So inclusion at Kelly, it's more than just saying, oh, we hire people with disabilities. It's really about what it means to the individual that we just hired. You know, we want to, give them the ability to have their own freedom, make their own money, be able to support themselves, become their own advocate in any way we can. But the impact that it's had on our employees has been phenomenal. So this is a quote from an individual. She leads our recruiting team in Kelly Connect. And the advice really is just embracing this. Taking the time to accommodate with people with disabilities. There's been this, I don't know, it's like a perception or maybe even a bit of a fear that, well, if I have to make an accommodation, it's going to be very expensive. It's going to be time consuming. Or even if I have someone with a disability working with me, what if I mess up? What if I say something I'm not supposed to? Or, because in America, we've got the Americans with Disabilities Act, and well, what if we violate that? And so, we've embraced this as a huge opportunity for us to help our customers understand that this is not something that it's not scary. It's not expensive. We have the data to prove that. And that we can sit down and just explain, even sometimes an accommodation might be as simple as the individual's bus route. It can't get them to work to start till 10, even though you have the shift starts at 9. Are you willing to accommodate that? And having these conversations now has been much easier. It's flowing much better. We're seeing a lot of our customers, especially if they have very robust, inclusive, and diversity programs themselves, really embracing it quickly. But even the smaller types of operations, what we call our retail customers, they might be hiring 1 or 2 people here and there, but they're starting to embrace this more as well, because they're starting to understand that there's such a diverse group of talent out there, and there is what we call in the staffing industry a war of talent, right? Everybody wants those people and trying to hire them, and there's just not enough people to go around and fill all of the open jobs. But at the same time, the data shows that there's still about 80 to 85% of people with disabilities that don't have employment. So there's a huge talent pool we haven't been tapping into, and bringing that data and bringing these employees to our customers and to Kelly, again, has been extremely beneficial, both for the individual being hired, as well as for ourselves and our customers. So that was really all I had. I don't know if anybody has any questions, feedback.
Дженнифер, большое спасибо. У меня есть один маленький вопрос. Мы всегда очень наблюдаем американский рынок или американскую экономику. Вы всегда очень много трендов первые делаете. И потом это переходит в Европу, и мы это пользуем в Европу. Вы видите сейчас какие-то тенденции, профессии, которые занимаются люди с инвалидностью, которые раньше они не занимались, может быть, тех-экономики и e-commerce и так далее, которые мы потом тоже будем увидеть здесь у нас в Европе?
Yes, there's a couple actually that we're really seeing. The first being, of course, with COVID, we've had an increased demand for roles that involved temperature screening, employee counting, facilities management with extra cleaning and things that need to be done. So we're seeing more and more of that come forward. And in partnering with Best Buddies, they're seeing that with their other corporate partners too. So they've developed a pipeline of talent that actually can and are willing to do those roles. So we're working with a couple of our large customers right now. One is based in Michigan, and we're going to be launching that partnership here in November to hire specifically for those kind of roles. The other where we're seeing it is more in our science, engineering, and technology area. So really higher skilled positions. Things like data scientists. Those are big right now. And in partnering with Best Buddies and some other organizations like Autism Speaks, there is such highly qualified talent that can do this type of work and do it really, really well. But again, sometimes those individuals, they can't make it past the interview or even the phone screen. Sometimes, especially with neurodiverse, it is very challenging for them. So what we've started to do is developed more of an adaptive interview process. And we're doing it internally at Kelly, and we're starting to do it now with our customers. And again, the same customer that's hiring the COVID roles is now very interested in more of these technical roles as well, especially in the biosciences. So we're working actively with our partners to say, hey, can we identify some talent? Do we have them available? Because we have our customers definitely interested in filling those.
Мы тоже знаем, что у вас есть офис в России, вы большая организация в России, у вас есть связь с вашими коллегами в России, они тоже занимаются компасом.
As of right now, no, we haven't started that yet. We have, like I mentioned, working with our European offices to start expanding that. This year, Kelly went through a pretty significant restructure. So we now have all of our international business under one leader. So she is on my agenda, but our fourth quarter at Kelly is typically very active. There's a lot of what we call ramp ups. So we have a lot of people working. Our recruiters are just heads down right now. But she is on my radar to talk to in the first quarter.
Мы с терпением ждем этого проявления в России. И есть еще один вопрос, продолжение предыдущего вопроса, исходя из вашей практики трудоустройства людей с инвалидностью, в среднем они устраиваются на низкопрофессиональные должности или же те, которые требуют наличия высшего образования. Еще один вопрос. Вы делаете тренинги для HR-специалистов? Спасибо. Это от Вероника Иванова.
So the individuals that we have placed, they are entry-level positions. They're within what we call a shared services organization, and they provide support for all of our field offices in the United States. What our shared services organization has, though, is a very active career pathing program. So as these individuals get trained, the idea being is they will be cross-trained in other types of activities first, be able to support things in different functions in different areas. And then, of course, we're working with Best Buddies. They have an ambassador training program. So it's a leadership development program. And we have several Kelly employees that participate in that to be mentors to individuals with disabilities, including our 3 Kelly employees. And the idea being is that we want to help build their leadership skills through that program and then be able to apply them at Kelly. And ideally give them that career path, just like everybody else, to be able to navigate not only across the organization, but upwards as well.
Спасибо большое. Я вижу, еще есть один вопрос Джилу Ютно, если она еще онлайн. Есть вопрос, насколько ее программа DEI тоже имеет планы на Россию, на развитие в России.
We would love to work in partnership to pilot in Russia.
Это очень хорошие заключительные слова. Мы этого очень ждем. Я могу сказать всем огромное спасибо, которые участвовали. Особенно теми людьми, которые за стенами работают, наши переводчики. И в том числе я очень вот в подготовке этой конференции работал с разными сотрудниками перспективы. И я знаю, что несколько из них невидящие сотрудники. И когда ты им звонишь и говоришь, что вот так и так и так, они отвечают: я все видел, я все делаю. Поэтому я восхищен вашей работой. И особенно мы сегодня слышали, кто-то говорил, что новые технологии и так далее недоступны этим людям. Нет, они доступны, они работают, они, может быть, лучше знают, чем мы сами. Ну, поэтому я хотел сейчас передавать слово Михаилу Новикову и Денису, чтобы делать заключительные слова для нашей конференции сегодня. Еще раз всем большое спасибо.
Денис, может быть, вы скажете? Меня слышно? Ну, спасибо огромное за такую огромную честь.
Михаил, мы вас не слышим. Михаил, we don't hear you.
Слышно меня?
Сейчас слышно, да.
Замечательно. Спасибо огромное. Я, наверное, лучше, если скажу заключительное слово Денис, я скажу всего лишь, может быть, пару слов. Спасибо всем огромное за то, что за этот огромный труд, за то, что мы сделали такой марафон, трехдневный форум. Мне кажется, он был очень интересный. Было очень много интересного российского опыта, очень много интересного международного опыта. Я думаю, что он всех нас очень обогатил и точно поможет в реализации программ по трудоустройству людей с инвалидностью. Огромное спасибо всей команде по трудоустройству, спасибо огромное IT-поддержке, На самом деле, действительно, это большой очень труд. И то, что все это состоялось, я думаю, что все это оценили. И то, что у нас удалось это реализовать в новом для нас формате, и, в общем-то, удалось реализовать достаточно успешно, ну, это большой успех и новый шаг в развитии наших программ. Будем рады дальнейшему сотрудничеству и со всеми нашими российскими партнерами, и со всеми зарубежными, с кем мы общались, от кого услышали о новых интересных идеях и программах, которых, надеюсь, что с их помощью, может быть, и наша организация выступит как партнер, реализуем их на территории нашей страны. Спасибо огромное.
Denise?
I just want to say thank you to everyone. It's been a wonderful 3 days, great speakers, and I think the format is also a format that we can use in the future. И я думаю, сейчас по-русски я вижу, что у нас даже англоговорящих уже ушли. Но спасибо всем, что вы пришли, что вы поучаствовали активно. И я надеюсь, что это поможет нам дальше. И отличных выходных. Спасибо всем. До новых встреч. Спасибо огромное Михаилу У меня просто включен, я не могу выключить английский у меня. Я слушаю английский. Короче, Михаил, огромное спасибо за работу, в качестве ведущего и всей команде. Мне нечего нового сказать. Я думаю, это просто очень успешные 3 дня. Тем более, что для нас это тоже довольно новый опыт проводить свой форум в рамках онлайн. Для нас важно было, чтобы все было интересно, полезно, доступно. И мы будем рады обратной связи от вас, ваше мнение, идея. Мы вам вышлем обязательно анкету. У нас участвовало за 3 дня, мне кажется, где-то точно больше 300 человек из разных городов. Я думаю, это тоже очень важно, потому что обычно у нас на форуме участвует меньше людей. Вот и успех. Так что, успех. Все равно я считаю, что всегда можно делать лучше, и поэтому важна ваша обратная связь, чтобы вы подумали о том, как это делать лучше. Вот.
Спасибо.
Спасибо большое.
Хороших выходных.
До свидания всем. Хороших выходных всем. Как это? Спасибо.